Ciarán, I'm so happy to see you. Thank you again for taking the time to catch up. It's been a little while. We have been on the road. We have been traveling across the country, the United States, and we've been doing some great work. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Greg, and I think both of our wives had realized we were seeing more of each other than we were of them through
I
September and
think
part of October.
that's
So,
right. Yeah, that was
but
quite a run.
yeah, but it was it was a great set of events. We've been through across the Washington, New York,
Yeah,
Columbus, Cleveland, Chicago, and of course then back in Ireland in between that for the Ardèche. So it
that's
was all
right.
very good and all very productive. So, but
Yeah,
it's good to see you on Zoom as
that's
opposed to real
right.
life.
Happy to see you in person. Also happy to see you on Zoom. Yeah, I hope our readers have been keeping up with all the incredible updates and work. We've been sharing information about the events we held in Cleveland and Columbus earlier this month. And that was really the kickoff of the American series of hearings and discussions about the role of Irish America on the path to Irish unity. We are hard at work making plans for the next series of events, and we're excited about how that's coming together, and we'll announce tickets and dates and locations soon. And what's clear, though, is that across the country, people are recognizing the historic nature of this moment and are saying, oh, wait a second, I want to be a part of this somehow. What can I do? How can I connect with this work? And what role can I play to help advance the cause of Irish unity? And that is, I mean, to be on the road a while is one thing, but you get buoyed and inspired and excited and motivated after every one of those meetings, every one of those conversations.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that was the great piece that I took away from it was from all of those engagements was the fact that people were invested, that they were interested and they wanted to know what role they can play in it.
Yeah.
And the conversations were extremely strong and productive. So yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I mean, they're long trips and it's hard on the road, but you do come away energized from it.
Exactly right. It feels invigorating, and I can't wait to get back out and meet more folks and continue the conversation. Another side note, since the last time we did a video update, we have added a handful of new merch designs to our shop, some t-shirts, some stickers. The response has been outstanding. More of y'all have bought shirts and stickers here in the last month than previously all years combined. So thank you for that. Thank you for that support. We are going to be adding a couple of more designs here. I'll have them up in the shop soon. And as a special bonus for our video update viewers, I have added a limited discount code just for video update viewers. The first 5 people to use the code video update 25, all capital letters, video update 25, no spaces, all capitals. You'll get 25% off your entire order at checkout. We are proud to be able to offer shirts that are carbon neutral, that are made in the United States, and are all union printed. And we know that you are proud to show off your support for Friends of Sinn Féin and to let everyone know it's time for unity. So thanks for that support, and we'll be keeping those options open.
Yeah, isn't it great, Greg? Because at a couple of the events, we seen people in the shirts,
Show
so it's
up,
great.
exactly right.
It's great to see them out in the wild and people showing their support. And I would expect wherever they are with them, they become a talking point.
Exactly right. That and the stickers, people are telling me they're putting them on their water bottles, on their laptops, and it starts conversations in coffee shops or at work. And it's really great to see. So thanks for that. Let's dive into kind of the heart of the matter here. We are in right on the cusp, perhaps, or right in the middle of, I'm not sure how we name it, election season. Certainly here in the United States, we are well aware of the wall-to-wall coverage of all the excitement and enthusiasm around what's happening in the elections. And it's also the case in Ireland. Can we spend a little bit of time just thinking about the logistics? What do we know? What don't we know? And what do you think the next couple of weeks will look like in the realm of Irish elections? Just the logistics of that stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll deal with the Irish elections. I won't
That's right.
engage with the
That's
US
right.
elections. And I'm not gonna ask you for your views on it solely because you told me that the Yankees were going to win the World Series and they're 3-0
Yeesh.
down at the minute.
Listen,
So
listen, it's not over. That was one of the best Yankees ever said. It's not over till it's over. It's not looking
well,
good, but
well,
there's
hopefully,
still
hopefully
baseball to play.
I'll come back I'll come back at the next episode and say, Greg, you called that one right.
Let's hope.
So yeah, so just so people understand that unlike the US, there's no set election date in the
Yeah.
South. So we are expecting a general election. There is a cutoff date when there must be one, which is the beginning of March of next year. But the actual setting the date is down to the Taoiseach and the government of the day. And that gives them a degree of home advantage. The So where we are at the minute with it is and this becomes really frustrating for people. So the Taoiseach has not told us what date it's on, but he has told us it will be before
Christmas,
Christmas.
was it?
It
Yep.
will be on a Friday, and that has left people trying to work out what date that would be. They
Is he trying
accepted.
to start a riddle? Like, is it a riddle we got to figure
Well,
out?
there's legal reasons as well. Not a legal reasons, but the added advantage is that he knows what date it is, so he can get his posters prepared and all of that and ready to go. He
Yeah.
can get his strategy together.
Home
I,
field advantage, yeah.
Absolutely home field advantage, and also like any spend that's incurred now is outside of the election period, so he can front load the election campaign. So all of that gives the government the advantage in this. So looking at the ruins and what that would look like, if it's going to be a Friday, it would probably be the last Friday in November would be the earliest you could do it at this stage, which would be the 29th. The following Friday, you're into December and you're into the Christmas period, including the toy shows on RTA, which is probably the most viewed show in the year for RTA. So I can't see a government having an election on the day of the toy show. So all of that would seem to, this is like how ludicrous this is.
Right.
So all of this indicates that it would be Friday the 29th of November would be the election day.
Yeah.
The Taoiseach is expected, the Dáil is in recess at the minute, and he's expected to come in next week and set the date call the date for the election. And that would be a 3-week official campaign.
Wow.
Compared to the US, they're very small, they're very limited campaigns. I think that's in the interest of the government, where they're trying to capitalize. They had a good election in the Europeans and the local governments, and they're trying to just bounce that into a general election. This would be a different type of election. This is about electing a government. And also the other difference, and we can get into, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of it, there are multi-seat constituencies here which are voted by proportional representation. So it's ranked voting. So all of that leads to really interesting sets of dynamics within constituencies and then across all 26 counties.
Right.
So it's all to play for. We're very, very keen about the politics of the election. It has to be about change. But that's the logistics. I think we will be in a short 3-week campaign. I think the election will be the 29th. But that could all change, as I say. We're all just waiting on the Taoiseach to announce the dates.
So I appreciate that overview. A 3-week general election and presidential campaign seems extraordinarily rushed from the experience of here. But is that shorter than usual? Is that longer? Is there not really an average? Well, how does that fit into things?
They're normally 4 to 6 weeks, so it is quite short. And the last election was held on a Saturday, which was great because it allowed students to vote where they did when they were home from college. I think that's another reason why they're going for a Friday, because that inhibits the youth vote. But all of that, I mean, at whatever date the Taoiseach calls us for, we are more than ready and more than up for the discussion.
Yeah, thanks for that overview. I know we'll all be watching closely. And as you mentioned, it is a different style of voting, that proportional representation, that multi-seat constituency, and we will revisit the process. We did a little bit of that a couple of years ago in some stories if one wants to find the archives, but we will also come back and revisit what that means to a voter, how those votes work, and what the logistics of that looks like. But for now, it's really helpful look at the logistics of what the next couple of weeks look like. So thanks for that.
So I think, so I think just moving on to then the politics of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that's the dates and details, but what do we think are going to be the big issues on the campaign and in the politics of this election?
So there's a couple of very pointed issues that are driving politics here. The key one is we are in the middle of a housing crisis, not housing crisis, and I've spoke about it before, infects all other aspects of policy. So the record, when this government came into power all those years ago, or even when Fianna Fáil came into power, homelessness was probably running around 4,000 tops across the state, and that was seemed to be a disgrace. It's now over 14,000.
Oh,
so the price of houses have multiplied to the point where they're completely out of the grasp of working families to build new houses. And what houses are being built are being snapped up by institutional investors who pay very little tax on those, and they can outbid working families. And again, that puts pressure on the rental market. So
and everywhere, in every direction.
So house prices have been through the roof. They're the highest they've been since the peak, which led to a crash in 2009 to rental. The rents are sky high as well. All of that means that we've lost a generation of young people who have now immigrated to Britain, to Canada, to Australia, because they can't see a pathway where they could own a home, and they can't see the potential even for renting on the incomes. So Dublin's just ranked as has been ranked as one of the second most expensive capitals in Europe.
Wow.
So
That has not been that way for a very long. That's not how it has always been, you know?
no, and all of that. So we've got this crisis, which is impacting on immigration. A lot of people are now leaving.
Hmm.
We have families who are now stuck in unsuitable accommodation. We have families who are now sharing multiple houses. You
Yeah.
know, 30-year-olds who are stuck in their parents' back bedrooms. So all of that,
Yeah.
and then that impacts in public services, because
Sure.
if you're a guard or a nurse or a teacher, you can't
Yeah.
afford to live in Dublin, and you can't
Yeah.
afford those rents. So then there's a shortage of
A
teachers, there's a
shortage of
shortage of
exactly right.
staff.
Yeah.
And we're now finding even multinationals are having difficulty bringing in talent because there's no houses available. So housing is a key driver of all of the other issues that we face. We also have a
Yeah.
government which is every week that there's a new headline about how billions, millions, and billions have been squandered. So we are in the middle of they're building a children's hospital in Dublin, which originally started out about 500 million and will probably come in somewhere in the region of over 2 billion to 2.5
Holy cow.
over budget. It's going to be the most expensive hospital in the world, which is over budget, which is past it should have been completion date. And it's not that it's going to be the world's greatest hospital. I no doubt it'd be a good hospital, but the fact is that's the type of mismanagement so on. So you've
Yeah.
all of these problems. And by the
Yeah.
way, this state is actually quite wealthy. It's run the budget surplus, and
Yeah.
this government hasn't been able to deal with those. Not only have they not dealt with them, all of those crises have worsened. So I think the election will ultimately come down to who the electorate will believe will be the people who will best serve their interests and can
Yeah.
deliver the type of change that they want to see. And underneath all of that is this whole notion of Irish unity.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
we are about not just looking at government in the 26 counties, separate from the 6 counties. We are at a point in our history where we have the ability to build a new and united Ireland. And Sinn Féin government will plan and prepare for that. The
Yeah.
Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, the present government parties, are refusing to engage in that piece.
Yeah.
So I think we have a challenge to convince people that Sinn Féin can actually resolve the issues of today, and that
Mm.
Sinn Féin are the best party to deliver that new and united Ireland in the future of all of Ireland. So
Yeah, I think that's a great context and a reminder that the problems that we're working on fixing are reset and reestablished in a United Ireland context, and work towards that is a really important piece of all this. And then, as you say, plan and prepare, plan and prepare. I want to remind viewers then, listeners, that all of Sinn Féin's plans to address the housing project, to address emergency accommodations today was just released, to address prescription drug pricing. It's not just that there is a group of people saying it shouldn't be like that and it should be better. What Sinn Féin has been doing steadily and over the past, well, for years and decades, but recently shared very specific plans about how a Sinn Féin government will address these specific issues, and they're well worth reading and seeing the level of detail and vision for what's possible.
yeah, I think that's what we have when I talk. We have to convince people that we're serious about
Yeah.
delivering the type of change, and people have to have that sense of hope that things
Yes.
can change. So you're right. So today we launched a policy, an extensive policy, over
Yeah.
300 pages of policy
Yeah.
document on how to reform the health services, so that to ensure the health and well-being of all of our people, to ensure that the highest quality of care, that it's accessible, and that as you say, separate from the American model here, the public health model is what we will be moving towards. So
Yeah.
healthcare free at the point of delivery for
Yeah.
all in need. And that can be done. There's no reason why not. I mean, there's a British National Health Service which has
Yeah.
been can do that, and other health services across Europe. So yep,
Yeah.
that's there. We have very detailed policies about how we would resolve the housing issue, build homes. It's not
Yeah.
it's not actually that complicated. It's
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
building homes and building
Making it.
houses for people,
Yeah.
and making house ownership accessible for
Yeah,
those who
attainable.
want to
Yeah,
buy, and
that's
making
right.
rental accommodation affordable for those who want rental accommodation. So
Yeah,
all of that is doable. And I always come back to the point that this state is wealthy.
yeah.
It is
The
a wealthy
surplus,
state.
half a
It's got
windfall. There's, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
aside from the ongoing surplus, there's a 14 billion Apple tax windfall,
yeah,
which is there.
yep,
So I'm not arguing that all that has to get spent today. I'm not arguing that you've got the money because you
sure.
spend it, it goes out the door. But that's the type of thing that if we were to plan for United Ireland, there's funds that could make that possible.
That's
So
right.
yep, all of that
Yeah,
is suitable and doable.
yeah, I'd recommend folks go back and revisit some of those policy papers. Or for every one of the topics that is coming to the fore as a major issue in the election, Sinn Féin has a plan, has prepared, and has a detailed explanation and vision for how it works. And it's really, is it fun to sit down and read a 300-page policy document? Not always. Does it provide a sense of confidence and say, oh, wait a second, there is a clear vision for the future that does provide hope? That does feel pretty good. So those are all available on our site and on Sinn Féin's website. I think another issue that maybe is outside of the realm of elections, but super important to Irish Americans, and I know folks in Ireland, would be the legacy issue with the election of a new government in Britain. There was a promise to repeal and replace the Legacy Act that was put in place by the previous Tory government. And it's not clear to me where things stand on that. I saw Rose Conway-Walsh TD there on the floor of the Dáil talking about the need to maintain pressure in the European Union for the Irish government to do so, and on Keir Starmer. I've seen statements from John Finucane and Dar Hughes. Where do things stand on the question of this process, and what's to be done?
Okay, well, before I give you an update, I'll just take a step back to remind people of what the issues are.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
the previous British government under the Tories, the Conservative Party, brought forward a piece of legislation which got voted into law, which effectively stopped all inquests and inquiries into the past. It blocked families of victims from having access to the courts, and it meant then that families who, while it was police ombudsman's reports, where it was inquests, investigations, all of those stopped, and families were left not knowing what happened to their loved ones, and no mechanism to access the courts to find out. So
Yeah.
it was all ridiculously and insultingly done under the name of reconciliation,
Yeah.
which was basically the British government saying, we're not telling you what happened to your loved ones, just get
Yep.
over it.
That's right.
And that the basis of reconciliation has to be about acknowledgement and information.
Yeah, that's right.
So this piece of legislation, it also contravened the Good Friday Agreement, the European Convention on Human Rights, and was an insulting piece of legislation, by the way, which was the British government brought in opposition from all political parties in Ireland, the Irish government, and the American Congress.
And
So
Amnesty International and every human rights body. Yep, the UN.
So at that, when I was going through Westminster, the Labour Party, which is now the government, said that they would repeal and replace this legislation, and voted against it because it was so egregious.
Yeah.
So that was the position of the government as they came into power. There's been a number of legal challenges, which the first one the current British government didn't oppose. Because the legislation provided an amnesty for members of the security forces who had been involved in murders, and they didn't appeal that. So it looked like they were going somewhere along the line. So recently, they have said that they would appeal a further piece of legislation which the courts had ruled was unlawful, which makes, and they haven't identified how they're going to replace this legislation. They haven't identified the timetable for repealing it. So there's very much a caution with victims groups and with political parties that the British government aren't going to live up to what they promised, and that is a full repeal and replacement of this. And people have to remember that there was an agreement in place between the British and Irish governments called Stormont House.
That's right. Yeah.
And it had the agreement of most of the parties. So it's not as if it's starting again from scratch. That piece of legislation and that agreement is there to be, if it needs to be updated, to be slightly updated. But at the minute, we're in this limbo position where the British government said they would repeal and replace. They haven't. And they've given no indication. In fact, they are now seem to be supporting the legislation through the courts. So that's a very worrying sign. And at the same time, the Irish government were left in a position where because of this legislation was contrary to Good Friday Agreement and European Convention of Human Rights, they have taken a case to Europe. So we are very keen that the Irish government continues that till we get to the point where the legislation is completely repealed and we go to the position where Stormont House is recognised and implemented.
Yeah.
So that's where we are. So that's the reason why you've John Finucane has been out, Dara Hughes, the MP, met with Hilary Benn, the Good Friday Agreement Committee in the Oireachtas met with Hilary Benn and my Rose Conway Walsh, our TD, raised it directly with the Taoiseach to push the case that he has to continue with the legal case.
Yeah.
Because that is the only leverage that the British government will have to understand. And ultimately, a British government will have to go into court in Europe and stand over this law.
That's right. Yeah.
And the court will adjudicate whether it is legal or not. So that's the reason why it's back. So that we're very concerned about the British government not living up to what they had promised to do. That's no surprise. But what we have to move, it's not just about our approach to the British, it's not just about being annoyed by the British government, it's how do we move them that this legislation is completely unlawful and it should be, they can either dismiss it and come back to the negotiating table themselves and replace it with what was there in Stormont House, or they can take it into Europe and Europe will dismiss it.
Yeah, those are the options. Yeah.
So we're very keen to maintain, and by the way, the US has a role and has had a role in ensuring that the British government honour those obligations to the Good Friday Agreement, and the Labour Party and the Labour government honours their obligation to repeal and replace this legislation.
Oh, thank you for that update on the latest there. We will keep a close eye on that and make sure that any updates or news are included in future updates as well as in our newsletter and media. Thank you, Ciarán, for taking the time to give us this update. I wish you the best of luck over the next couple of weeks. I hope it goes by swimmingly. I hope you get good weather. I hope the sun stays up later than usual. I don't know what to say. It's gonna be a run.
Can I just say I admire your optimism. It's November. it's almost November in Ireland.
I know. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So good luck. We will be keeping a close eye on things. We will be back here with news to update and any analysis that's needed. And talk to you soon. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Greg, and thanks for everybody for all of your support.